So my favorite podcast right now, Justine, is 60 Second Science.
60 seconds.
Science.
60?
What's that mean?
Oh, yes.
It's a science topic.
In
1
60
minute,
seconds.
In 60 seconds.
Okay.
It is every day is a new one.
Okay.
It's completely awesome because it only takes 60 seconds.
Awesome.
So you always have 60 seconds in the day.
Awesome.
And it is these topics are amazing. And they put it all in 1 minute.
Awesome.
So that's why we're going to get you to do a 60-second cat bite.
Okay.
All right.
And is it one topic or is it a summary, like a quick summary of this podcast?
Whatever you want.
Whatever
to
you
talk
want.
About. So.
Do you use it as a promo for this?
Yeah,
or?
we normally do.
Yeah, it'll
but,
go on.
it's just
It'll end
like-
up on YouTube, but we can also use it as a promo.
Sorry for saying Sorry Media presents the Purr Podcast, the best podcast for feline medicine and surgery with tips, tricks, and updates for the entire veterinary healthcare team. If you're dying to know more about cats, keep on listening. Here are your hosts, Dr. Susan Little, famous cat vet and textbook author, and Dr. Jolle Kirpenstein, talented surgeon and social media geek.
Hello, this is Dr. Jolle Kirpenstein.
And it's Dr. Susan Little.
And this is the second podcast with the awesome Justine Lee.
Just as awesome as in the first episode.
I know.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. So we had a really great first podcast.
And wide-ranging discussions, I think.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. We went from everywhere. And it's tough for the people that we interview because we never tell them what we're going to do.
No.
It's great. It's more spontaneous.
Yeah.
And
You've
yes,
been coping very well,
very
I must say.
easy. Very
Because
easy
we actually
going.
have no idea what we're going to talk about.
Yes. And I said, we're talking with the goddess of podcasting.
Oh, please. Nonsense.
So welcome again.
Thank you. Vet students don't want to hear this, even with new grads. They have so much debt load. And it's really hard to say this, but I've done a couple of commencement talks where I said, you know what? Our veterinary profession is so amazing. Take the time to give back. Whether or not it's tithing away and donating some of your salary or donating some of your time to do that, because I feel really fortunate, but find a way that gives back, because even that generosity also brings you joy in the end.
It does. Yeah, it does. It really helps you probably as much as it helps whoever the recipient of your generosity is. And I think that's a really good message, because typically what we see, it's people who are sort of later in the career or established in the career, and then they really, overwhelmingly feel the need, but they're also in a place where they feel that it's easier.
Yes.
But I think there could be benefits, as you say, to encouraging people like out of the gate, right? Let's
agree.
find a way. It could be just mentoring, helping mentor other people, It could be the next class of vet students
It
or
could
whatever.
be bringing a well-behaved, mellow cat to a senior citizen's
It could,
home.
oh my
right?
gosh,
So
absolutely.
just doing different things, even if it's
Yeah.
1 hour a month.
Do you know, so I'm a graduate of the University of Guelph, the Ontario Veterinary College, and in my final year there, that's exactly what we did. Our students participated in a program where we went to senior citizens' homes with a pet visitation service.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit of work-life balance, because I think you're a pretty strong promoter of working hard, but then also playing hard.
Yes. I'm a big work hard, play hard. So it's funny because I've done a couple of lectures on work-life balance, and my husband was like, you?
Yeah.
I was like, I have work-life balance sometimes.
That was what my husband would do too. Should I be foolish enough to say that? Yeah.
I will say it's taken me 20 years to figure it out. I'm a Gen X, and I obviously I graduated 20 years ago. In my field of emergency critical care, there's such a high turnover among emergency vets, among emergency veterinary technicians. I think it's so important that you implement self-care. And I'm a total tomboy. Like, I run. I like to be in fleece. I play hockey. But I always schedule on my Google Calendar, where I automate my life to make life easier, a monthly massage or facial. And I always make sure to schedule my 1 day a week when I don't have daycare, when I do have daycare, when I can go work out, when I'm not in the clinic, to make sure I schedule that in. So I'm very protective about my time. So I think work-life balance, some people say the word doesn't exist. It does. You just have to work and make it a goal. We made it a goal to get into veterinary school. We made it a goal to do an internship or do a residency or buy a practice. So it has to be an intentional goal that we really want to set, and it's hard.
But you have to prioritize it.
Absolutely.
You can't say, the budget needs to be done, or you can't shift the which we tend to do.
Yeah. So I guess if I had any parting wisdom on work-life balance, I would say make sure to schedule it, make sure to value it, make sure your partner is on board with you. And even though you have a lot of student debt, if you need a $60 massage, I think that's really important. But it could also be walking your dog for 30 minutes when you've had a really bad day at the clinic. Ooh, sorry. Or playing with your cat.
Yes.
So making sure that you have some outside non-veterinary hobby that you can do. And I would also say, like I mentioned before, part of work-life balance is learning to be an efficient vet, so you aren't stuck there 3 hours after your shift documenting and doing medical records and returning phone calls. It's delegating, empowering your staff to call back with the heartworm test because you want them to talk to the owner. So really empowering your staff, training them appropriately, learning to let go, learning to be efficient. And I always say, weigh the stress to yes ratio when someone asks you to do something.
The stress to yes ratio.
Yeah, before I say
this is a good phrase
yes
for Susan.
to anything,
Yeah.
I always ask myself 2 to 3 questions. 1, does it spark joy? Is it going to directly make me happy? 2, is this going to directly benefit me? 3, weigh the stress to yes ratio. If it's going to stress me out more to say yes, then it's not worth doing. Yeah. And that's going to affect your work-life balance. And sometimes it can be really hard to say no to someone directly when your boss asks you to do something. And so my suggestion is say, hey, thanks for asking me. I'm honored to be considered. Do you mind if I get back to you tomorrow? And then tomorrow, type them an email and say, no thanks. Because it's a lot easier to turn them away by email. So weigh those 3 questions, and that will also help you value and figure out work-life balance.
That's awesome.
I like that idea because it's always harder when you're like right on the spot, right? And if you give yourself a little space,
right?
Yeah, then you'll know the answer, right?
It's kind of the same when you get an email and you get really stressed. Let me finish this.
In the moment, it's hard to refuse things, but if you take a little time.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of the same when I get an email. Yeah, I just turned it on, so hopefully it's working again. But you get an email and you have this immediate reaction that you, especially when it's a negative email, that you have to immediately respond. And I remember that when I came back to Holland after my residency, and my professor said to me, we love your passion, that sort of things, but the one thing we would like you to do is the next time when you get an email that you're really upset about, just wait a day before you answer. and I was like, why? And he said, because you can type it and then you leave it and then you reread it and see what you think. And I'm
such wisdom.
I know, it's amazing. And that's
it's a simple thing, but very smart.
It is because you're passionate, you're emotional, and then you say things that you probably shouldn't.
Or you
say.
get better perspective. Like even a few hours might change your perspective on something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So.
And I also have the philosophy: don't throw pearls to the pigs. So
I like that
don't waste 80% of your time focusing on 20% of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not worth putting all this mental energy.
No.
Over something that's just going to stress you out.
And it's easy. It's easy to do so because I remember. So I was in oncology, and it's doom and gloom because most of the cases will die, and you have these 95% of your clients that are absolutely fantastic, wonderful people to deal with, so thankful for everything that you do, and then you have this 5% of the people that just irritate the piss out of you,
or complain,
and those hit you the hardest, although it's 5%. You have 95% that are wonderful. You should remember those. I just got a message from a client that I treated like 8 years ago, and she said that the cat is still alive.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic.
That's what you need to remember.
And that's what you need to remember. You shouldn't remember the last client that I had,
right.
For which I bent over backwards and wrote me this awful letter about what I should have done.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you remember.
Right.
But you don't remember all those
it's our nature,
cases.
though. This is very common. It's our nature to remember that, whatever percentage that is.
Yeah.
Why does that make a bigger impact on us?
We focus on the negative,
isn't it?
But I always say it's important to save all your positive emails or your positive thank you cards, put them in a I love me file, and whenever you're down, just look through that.
So you know what I started to do? I started to, so we have a newsletter that goes out to our staff, and I started this at the end of last year, so I did kind of a year-end wrap-up, and I put a section in the newsletter that's called Love Letters from Our Clients. Mm-hmm. So every month, I look at our reviews, and I always save all of the good reviews, and I send send them to our staff every month. Here's the love letters we got from our clients, right? I'm just trying to flood them with the good stuff, because there's far more good than bad, right? The bad, that's my job. I'll deal with it. I want you to be flooded with all the good stuff.
And I think we do it to ourselves, because we had MMM rounds, so where the mortality and everything that went wrong, morbidity, mortality ran, it was always about what went wrong instead of what went right. And so instead of saying, okay, let's talk about things that go well in these rounds, but it was always about, okay, who made this mistake? And so we do it to ourselves, I think.
We do. It also is important, and I learned this from my old mentor, who was actually a large animal internist at a different school, and I called him when I got a mediocre resident review. And he said, Justine, throw away the top 10% of the great reviews, throw away the bottom 10%, and you're probably somewhere in the middle. So even if we have a negative review, I would say there's probably something we should have learned from it, right? So we shouldn't be emotional and reactive immediately. Of course, that's our gut instinct. But like, walk away from it, put it in a drawer, and then come back to it later. There's probably a couple of things that could have been fixed. Because we always want to be a client advocate for them too. Don't get me wrong, clients are not always right. But we want a staff that is willing to learn on how we can make it a better client experience too.
I think it's part of taking care of yourself too, though, isn't it? That feeds back into that notion. That's a way to get a positive out of a negative, and it's a way to help feed yourself and take care of yourself.
If you get feedback that's kind of the same a couple of times, you might need to do something about it. So that's probably
it's probably legit.
Yeah, that's it.
The Win Feline Foundation has been funding cat health studies for 51 years. If you have a cat or have ever treated a cat, nearly everything we know was once funded by this nonprofit, totaling about $6.5 million. From understanding retroviruses, FELV and FIV, to more recently targeting gene defects responsible for HCM in the Ragdoll and Maine Coon breeds. The Win Feline Foundation Pet Memorial Program offers veterinary professionals an opportunity to reassure clients that their beloved cats have not been forgotten, and those dollars support health studies that benefit the lives of all cats. Contributions totaling $150 or more receive a certificate suitable for framing or display in your clinic. Imagine being able to treat kidney disease more effectively, using stem cell therapy to cure stomatitis, or drugs that treat FIP are actually within grasp. Consider your support in telling your clients about the Win Feline Foundation and a free newsletter at winfelinefoundation.org.
So let's go to the social media part, because I think you are also pioneers, you and Garrett, in the social media space. You give a lot of lectures about it, but you're also very honest about the mistakes that you made in social media. And I think that is very powerful. I always remember the picture of the vomiting dog that vomited like chocolate brown stuff all over, where you say that was the best picture ever, and I forgot to brand it.
Yes. So I think the hard thing is when people are starting a small business, whether or not it's for a clinic, ultimately your goal is to get your name and your logo out there, right, for brand recognition. So while I think social media is important for helping build your brand, because it's a free way of doing it, it's a great way for engagement, you're always going to have haters. There are always going to be internet trolls, and you're probably going to make some mistakes. Garrett and I have definitely made some mistakes. But the nice thing about social media is usually it's mostly self-regulatory. So if someone puts in a negative trolling comment, you'll have 90 people who go in and defend you. So my general philosophy is, if you're even thinking, should I post this? Just don't do it, right? So I do think it's an important tool for marketing and for connecting and for being able to get your brand out there. But I always tell people, you went to vet school to be an awesome vet. And so don't focus too much of your time on blogging and doing social media. Focus on being an awesome vet, and then you can build the rest as it comes.
Yeah. And I think that is absolutely true. And I think that also a lot of vets have, I always say vets are artists, so they have this artistic way of doing things, and it could be, you could be wood cutting things, you could be painting, you could be singing, you could be doing whatever you do. But I mean, if you put that passion into your work, but also outside of your work, that's how you create this balance. And you can work really, really hard, but as long as you enjoy the parts that are outside of your work and focus on things that really interest you, or even if you find out times that you kind of have this burnout about your work, what are things that you really enjoy, and can you focus on that, and can you build on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's the hard thing with the job. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be positive and negative feedback. You're going to be stuck there for late hours. You're going to see an emergency. But then a lot of us have awesome clients who send us thank you cards and bring us food, and it's trying to remember that reason why we wanted to be a vet when we were 7. And once you lose that feeling, it's time to take a break. So
yeah, and I feel a lot for veterinarians who are very much may feel trapped. You know, okay, easy for you to say that, Justine Lee. Like, just take a break. So what can we say to veterinarians who, you know, maybe whatever the pressure, economic pressure in their life is, they just can't step away from the job.
Sure.
So, but they can do some self-care things nonetheless,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's such a hard balance, because I have some vets who say, I don't want to pick up an extra 4 shifts a month just to help pay off my student debt load. And I always say, don't do it.
Yeah.
Do 1 or 2 shifts at most, but the rest of the time you need a self-care. So there are things that you can do to improve your work-life balance. That stress of student debt is going to be there for a long time. It took me over a decade to pay off my student loans, but I will say I felt a lot of freedom financially, and I felt like a huge burden was taken off when I was able to pay that off. And I did it by living like a broke resident for as long as I could. So I always say my little tip for new grads or for veterinary students who are still in school is work hard, but also make sure it's something that you want to be a work of frolic about. Like, it still brings you passion, but also learn to let go. You don't have to be a perfectionist. You're going to learn the ivory tower, and then after that, you'll figure out the rest. You do have to work hard the first few years, but you want to make sure you implement good self-care.
From the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been talking with my daughter a bit about this because she's in medical school, and there's another profession that, you know, has high stress rates and high burnout rates. And so, and they do talk about it, you know, quite early in medical school. I you know, my hope is, of course, she has 2 veterinarians as parents, and so we certainly are well aware of this, that it's something that she'll be able to incorporate self-care like early on. And, you know, I think all of these caring professions have the same type of issue, right? You know, we're prone to these things. Yeah. The other thing I think about work-life balance, in a way, that phrase bothers me a little bit, because it sounds like there's like a work-life balance. I think it's a shifting thing.
Yeah, of course.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, there may be one way
it's
to
a modification.
It's a modification. Yeah. There may be one way for that to work at, you know, this time in your life, and there may be quite a different way for that to work in another time of your life, right?
For sure.
So it's a very shifting thing. And that's okay.
For sure.
As long as you're thinking about it and trying to implement some way of doing that.
Yeah, there's no right answer.
No,
you have
there's
to
no
find
right
out
answer.
what works best for you and your family.
Absolutely. And often they're just little things too, not necessarily big things that help do that. Yeah.
Crazy cat news that you've seen lately.
Crazy cat news.
Ooh, that's a conversation stopper right there.
And it became silent.
I don't know if I've had any crazy cat news. I've sadly had a lot recently. A lot of people reach out to me on social media about how to report a spouse or a partner or a acquaintance that are hoarders. But that's a whole different podcast.
Oh, really?
And I reached out to our chief happiness officer, who's a licensed social worker, Janine Moga.
You have a chief happiness officer?
We do for Vet Girl.
Oh my gosh.
And
I love it.
she always recommended calling animal control because they're the best advocate for resources for both the pet and the person. But I would say of the depressing news, that's what I've had fill my mailbox the most recently on social media.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is sad.
But that is a whole other... That's another separate podcast.
Is it ever?
Because it's such a deep, complex problem.
Is it ever?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I will say the good news is cats always continue to distract Americans
They do.
and pride Canadians from work with all our cool videos.
Cats are on the internet.
People still love their cats on the internet.
And it's crazy. You put a cat photo on, and it's like 1,000 times.
Yeah,
it's so easy that you know, if you want to have people, especially on Instagram,
Yeah.
Cat picture or cat video. That's wonderful. This has been great. I think we're almost there. Last question.
Oh no. Oh, last question. Let's see. If you could have any cat breed, what cat breed would you pick?
Yeah, what cat breed?
I would probably say Burmese.
My gosh, you and I are twin sisters.
Oh, wow.
I love their chocolatey face. I love their shape of their head. I've never met a mean one.
Me too.
They just have the softest fur.
They're gorgeous. For a brief time, I bred Burmese cats.
Oh, no kidding.
I did it when I was a
Wow, I
student.
didn't know that.
Yeah, brief time, but
That's funny.
Yeah, and
so I would probably splurge on one of those. I love the appearance of
I
like
knew
a
you
lot
were
of
a
the
good
Oriental
person.
cats, but they're way too noisy for me.
Yeah.
Too much meowing.
Oh.
So I love the Burmese.
Oh my God.
I like the blue Russians.
Yes,
because of
also
the
very
face.
nice.
I mean, the little
Beautiful
cuddly
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm always intrigued by the Sphinx, but like the greasy feel.
Yeah, I know. So I have to
But
tell-
when I see him in the clinic, I'm like, this is so cool, but it feels so just.
So I have to tell you
Gross.
something quick about Sphinx. So I remember, my daughter will probably hate me for saying this, and she probably won't remember it. But when she was very young, and she happened to be in the clinic when we had a Sphinx, because we worked with a Sphinx breeder, and so there was a Sphinx cat in the clinic, and she said to me, "Mom, can we shave our cat?" Because she thought that's how you got Sphinx cats. I said, "No, that's not how
That's
you get
cute.
a Sphinx cat."
It's interesting because I had a discussion today with, I won't mention the person's name, but about in Europe that there is more and more criticism about showing,
there
you
is.
know...
It's a welfare concern. It's a
welfare
breed
concern,
confirmation
and that sort of things.
concern.
And so
yes.
they were talking about, English bulldogs with,
Yes.
brachycephalics.
Of course.
But then they also mentioned the Sphinx cat as being...
because it's not natural. It's not normal to be hairless.
Right.
Yeah, there is concern about that.
And then portraying these animals in a lot of marketing materials too, which I don't think... And here at WC, there's a really big brachycephalic dog where people...
Take pictures with.
of.
Yeah.
And so there's criticism about, having those breeds as poster child.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, he looks like he's got skin full of pyoderma.
I know.
And that's from a criticalist.
Yeah.
That's a very good
So it
pickup.
is-
And you
It
are
is
not the
hard.
first person who said that.
Right.
Somebody said that to me yesterday.
So it is hard. I'm always an advocate of adopting senior pets when people can.
Yeah.
So I love the logo.
Yeah.
Don't breed or buy when homeless animals die. But everyone's going to have a breed favorite, and I
There's
always
something
support as
for
long as you're
everybody.
taking care of the pet. I'm
That's
an
all that
advocate of
matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that completely. I think that you're looking for something, and what people say is that with breeds you kind of expect what
you get it
get,
more consistently.
and
Right.
it's more consistent.
Yeah, I get
so
that.
if I pick up and I love mixed breed dogs. I've only had mixed breed dogs in my life, but you never know what you
Right,
get
of
exactly.
course.
And so you kind of guesstimate if the paws are really wide.
Sure.
It might become really big, but that's the only thing you know. Of
course.
And
Yeah.
you don't know what kind of character a dog will have.
Yeah.
And for breeds, obviously you often know if you...
Or at least you know, suspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't
You
always work
suspect
out
cer-
that way,
No.
but at least they will know more about their breed, and probably in cats
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, it has been wonderful. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks for having me on.
podcast.
It was
Time
so
goes so
fun.
fast.
And it is so exciting to have you as the
Yeah.
the queen of
Oh,
podcasts.
please.
feel
I'm so
honored.
honored to. I'm so
No,
honored
we
to
feel
be on
honored.
Purr Podcast.
That's
So
been
thanks for having me
wonderful.
on.
Thank you so much. So this is great.
Thank you.
The opinions of this podcast are those by Dr. Susan Little and Dr. Jolle Kirpenstein. Veterinary medicine is a complex profession, and often there are multiple diagnostic and therapeutic options for different disease processes. If you're a pet owner with questions, please go to your local veterinarian. If you're a veterinary professional, ask your questions on our Instagram page @Purr Podcast. Dr. Susan Little is a feline medicine specialist with 2 cat-only hospitals in Ottawa, Canada. She is best known as an international speaker and as the author and editor of 2 textbooks, The Cat, Clinical Medicine and Management, and August, Consultations in Feline Internal Medicine. Along with 3 cats, she also admits to owning 2 dogs, and you can follow her on social media with the handle cat pet Susan. Dr. Jolle Kirpenstein is a diplomate of the American and European College of Veterinary Surgeons and a big cat fan. His specialties range from surgical oncology and reconstruction to minimally invasive surgery. He is the author of 2 textbooks on basic and reconstructive surgery. Did you know he was allergic to cats? Jolle works currently at Hill's Pet Nutrition. You can follow him on social media with the handle @GVETSX.